Valerie is going to incorporate her very own meditation into her presentation. So, Valerie, she's talking about be the change you want to see in the world, the power of positive protest. She'll examine the how and why of protesting, the role of resistance, and the power of focusing on what it is we want to accomplish. Valerie has studied neuro-linguistic programming, hypnosis, results coaching, pastoral counseling, law, and mediation. She served as a hospice chaplain, pastoral counselor, and life coach. She served as a homicide and narcotics prosecutor in suburban Washington, D.C., a mediator in the Maryland court system, and an elder law attorney. She wrote the first drug policy for the state of Maryland, and she's been published frequently in the Maryland Bar Journal. It's a great pleasure to present Valerie Seigal.
Good morning, and welcome. We did do something a little bit different this morning for meditation, and those of you who've come to Open Circle know in the past it's sort of my style to send you off somewhere, and we're not going to do that today. We're going to do something that is related to what we're talking about. So what I'd like you to do is take your hands, put them together, like you're going to pray. We're not going to pray what they told you about. There's no prayer here. It's true. Please don't leave. All my abandonment issues will kick in. Notice, if you will, where the joints of your middle fingers come together and line them up. Okay, everybody got that? And notice whether one finger is longer than the other, or if they are approximately the same size. Okay, we're together? All right. So what I want you to do when we start this process is, if you are right-handed, I want you to put your right hand out like that, perpendicular to your body, and your hand up. If you're left-handed, I want you to do the same thing with your left hand. And not now, but in a moment, I'm going to ask you to put your hand up that way. And in a moment, we're going to do something that's really very, very interesting, and for some of you may appear to be amazing. So get comfortable in your chair, if you will, please, because you're kind of going to be in this position for, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes, however long it takes to get it done. And now let's put this hand out, whichever hand it is. And if you want to close your eyes so you can really focus on what I'm saying, what we're going to do is take a deep breath. We're going to get fully present where we are in the chair. And I want to invite you to just bring your attention into the area of your heart. Into your, if you understand chakras, into your heart chakra, if you understand the physical body, just into that center section where your heart is. And focus your energy and attention on your heart. And notice how that heart space feels like it's lighting up. very strong, very powerful, that energy in your heart space. And we're going to take that energy right out of the heart and down the upper arm to the elbow. And it's going to turn the corner up your forearm. And then it's going to spiral into a strong, teeny, tiny point right into your middle finger, and it's going to push. Feel that energy pushing into your middle finger. All the strength from your heart, all the power from your heart has come down your arm and through your forearm and is now pushing into your middle finger. And notice how your middle finger just gets longer and longer. It's now longer than the top of your head as it pushes upward and upward. Notice how it pushes through the canopy of leaves over your head, pushing upward higher and higher and stronger and higher. And if that little finger had eyes, it could look right down onto the balcony behind us, in the house behind us, as it pushes upward, higher and higher, stronger and stronger, through the fog and the cloud layer that lays over Lake Chapala this morning. You're into those clouds. Look at the mist in those clouds, and here we are, up the other side. Up the other side into the morning sun and the blue sky as that finger gets longer and longer. And there goes a 737 right beside us. Longer and longer up into the blue until it's no longer blue. It's black space. And there it is. The tip of your finger, right out there. Amazing. And whenever you're ready, you can lower your arm and come back out of outer space and through the clouds and the trees and plump back down in your chair. And just out of curiosity, let's put those fingers together again. Anybody notice a change?
Yeah.
Did I see a show of hands if there was a change? Was there a change? Good, good. Okay. We're going to talk about this a little bit later on. Right now I want to welcome you to our exploration of the power of positive protest. Whether you're plotting a revolution, opposing Monsanto's meddling in your food, or you're personally protesting those extra pounds you've been hauling around lately, there are some basic principles that apply pretty much across the board. So let's examine what they are and talk about how to get what you want. Who was here last week for Eric Ferris's talk about polarity balancing? Good. Good. So you may remember that he spoke about the first cause of disease as thought. Remember that? And he said the second cause of disease is words. It's what we say. In my training and experience, these are the first causes of pretty much everything that happens in your life. Quantum physics and quantum mechanics tell us that thoughts have energy and power, and words set those thoughts into motion in the universe. The first thing that happens when you have a thought is it creates an actual microscopic structural change in the brain. You have billions and billions of brain cells, and these cells reach out and form connections, simply because of the thoughts you're having. If you imagine a huge oak tree or a tree like this, I don't know what kind of tree it is, branches extending out in all directions, and with each thought, those branches reach out and lock arms and form connections between brain cells purely because of what you're thinking. So the more you think a certain type of thought, the more connections are formed in that direction. The more positive thoughts, the more positive connections your brain creates. And really it can go either way. My friend Loretta LaRoche, she's a wonderful comedian, and she says, be aware that your mind contains enough material to keep you amused all day. It's like an inner sitcom that can entertain you for days on end without any commercial breaks. And I've definitely become my own joke. On the other end of the spectrum, Wayne Dyer has been heard to say that he has experienced terrible and traumatic events in his lifetime, most of which never actually happened. Make no mistake about it, the most important relationship you will ever have is the relationship you have with your thoughts. We create our life in two ways, either by design or by default. And by that I mean, if we've designed a dream for our life, then that is the direction in which we move. It's like planning to drive to Guadalajara. We may use a GPS, we may get directions from MapQuest, we may ask a friend to write them down, we could take somebody who knows where they're going. Here's the thing. We're focused on where we are going, and we have a plan, and we have a vision, and we follow it. Same trip. This actually happened in my life recently, the trip to Guadalajara. I had the map, someone else was driving, she had the GPS. We got to our destination in Guadalajara. No problem. Total ease. Then we learned we had to go someplace we didn't know we were going to have to go before we left Ajijic. And it had one of those complicated addresses that requires you to know more than just the street address, like the identity and blood type of the Aztec family who first settled there. You know, those kinds of addresses. So after a 15-minute futile attempt by two very competent office personnel to program the GPS, well, we ventured out. When we got to an intersection with which we were familiar, we turned to go in the direction we knew. The way we always go when we go to Guadalajara to shop. We defaulted to old patterns. We arrived at our destination 2.5 hours after we started. The destination was a full 13 minutes from where we had to go. And life tends to unfold that way. We have no plan, we have no vision. Nature abhors a vacuum. No vision, one will emerge. This worked in the past. Or the circumstances of the moment will simply carry us along. So let's look for a moment at our words. There's some sneaky word stuff that we want to be aware of. The brain is a forward-moving computer. It tends not to okay? It doesn't differentiate between positive or negative thoughts. It sees everything as though it's real. It's the same with walking around in the daytime and dreaming at night, or daydreaming. It's all, this is why you can lie in bed at night and think of the worst thing that's going to happen to you tomorrow, and your blood pressure goes up and your breathing increases and you can't fall asleep, because in your mind it's already going on. So when I say to my 6-year-old grandchild, yes, you can play in the front yard, just don't go in the street, I can expect to see my grandchild playing in the street within the first 5 minutes that she's in the yard. Because the child's word picture has her playing in the yard and in the street. And she doesn't get the don't. So, self-talk is also a hotbed of sabotage. I always forget names. I struggle with math. I'm too fat. I make the worst choices when I shop for clothes. I'm terrible about keeping in touch. And so we are. All of those things that we say we are. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So against this backdrop, let's look at what we call protest. In the earliest Latin derivation, the word derives from bringing forth public witness to something. Except for a choice word or two from Chaucer, we tend not to use much Middle English in common parlance anymore. So it wasn't until 1751 that the word protest was used as a statement of disapproval. Let's compare a couple of major 20th century social movements in the United States and how protests came to take shape there. The first recorded use of the word protest to define dissent or rejection of prevailing mores was in 1953 in reference to the United States Civil Rights Movement. So let's look for a brief moment at how that whole movement ramped into full swing and took shape. In 1955, Rosa Parks took her seat in the colored section of a bus and chose to keep it, despite the demand of a white passenger to relinquish it to him. 2 years later, 9 black students entered an all-white high school in Little Rock to get an education of the same caliber as that provided to white students in the same school district. In the early 1960s, Freedom Riders set about integrating public facilities in the South, and James Meredith went to college in Mississippi with the assistance of 5,000 federal troops. These were all people with a vision. Their handlers, and many of them did have handlers, had a vision. They were moving towards something of value to them. And then in 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King made what is probably one of the most famous speeches ever made in America, when he said, "I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that my 4 children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character," in 1963. And in 1964, the most sweeping civil rights legislation since Reconstruction was signed into law in the United States. The Civil Rights Act prohibits discrimination of all kinds based on race, color, religion, and national origin. So that's one protest movement in the U.S., and forgive me, the U.S. is my point of reference. I lived there in those times. It's like Jeopardy on TV when I'm watching with my friends and I blurt out answers and they say, "Wow, you really know this stuff." And I bask in the illusion that I'm so smart. The truth is, I know those answers the same way I know I saw my friend Gary in the Ganges on Wednesday. I was there. I was there when it happened, okay? That's all. And like a lot of people around here, I have an ancient internal hard drive filled with little known and less cared about facts from my earlier lived experience. So looking now at another protest movement that overlapped by a couple of years, the civil rights movement in the U.S., that would be the protest movement against the war in Vietnam. Active and continuous protests spanned about 11 years, from 1962 to 1973. And during that time, Mother Teresa was invited to march against the war. And her response was, "When you have a march for peace, please let me know, and I will walk with you." But there were no well-publicized marches for peace, despite the ardent cry of "peace now" during some of the demonstrations. The protests during those years were anti-war demonstrations and marches against U.S. involvement in Vietnam. 11 years of anti-Vietnam protests did not end the war. 9 years of following a vision set in motion the most massive U.S. social change in a century. Not 11 years of anti, as with the war in Vietnam, but 9 years of following a vision. You see the difference? I need a strong volunteer. You look like a strong man. Come on. What's your name? Larry. Larry, I want you to hold your hand up like we did in the exercise, okay? And you could like take me in arm wrestling, right? I mean, you're a strong guy, okay? Okay. Okay, so we're gonna do a little something here. Whatever I do, Larry, I want you to just stay strong. Okay? You don't have to do anything else. Just stay strong. All right? So I'm pushing now against Larry's hand, and I'm pushing against Larry's hand. Okay? But I want you to notice what Larry's doing. All I said was stay strong. But what Larry is doing, because he's fabulous, thank you for volunteering. What Larry is doing is what happens anytime we resist anything. It pushes back. It pushes back. What we resist persists. It butts right up against us. As we reinforce the negatives in our conscious, they create a neurological rut in our unconscious. And once that happens, even when we don't want a thing or a situation in our lives, it shows up anyway. So it's better to state what you want than to undo what you don't want. Obviously, when we're trying to figure out what kind of job we want, or what we want to put in our garden, or what we want to write about, there's typically a litany of stuff that hasn't worked in the past or that doesn't appeal to us that just sort of falls away. And that's fine. But when you begin to focus on what it is you want, you only bring in what it is you want. So let's go back to the exercise we did at the beginning instead of our nice usual quiet meditation. After we have focused our attention on our middle finger getting longer, some of you noticed that in fact it did get longer. A lot of you noticed, so a lot of hands go up. So what does that tell you? It tells you in very clear terms. What you focus your attention on grows. It doesn't get any clearer than that. What you focus your attention on grows. And that happens in light. It happens with things that you can't see as well as with things that you can see. What you resist persists. What you focus your attention on grows. And just look at how powerful your attention focus is. We have the power that we often do not own, in part because we don't believe or we don't even know that we have it. They, out there, those famous they, they say, or some say, depending on which network you work for, they out there, they are not going to do anything about my dream, my vision of the future. It could happen that they have the same or similar vision that I have, and if they do, then reality shifts for all of us. But at this juncture, my power and my vision are my responsibility, my personal responsibility. So the question now becomes, what do I want the outcome of my protests to be? What do I want the outcome of my protests to be? If I'm going to shed a few pounds, the outcome of my protest might be something like, I am lean, strong, and in perfect health. I begin my day with that thought. I repeat it from time to time as I'm moving through the market, as I'm making lunch plans with my friends, standing aimlessly in front of an open refrigerator. We've all been there, right? As I continue to reinforce the vision, I am lean, strong, and in perfect health. What happens? I begin to think like a lean, strong, healthy person. I make food choices from the mindset of a lean, strong, healthy person. That's not real, you say. I see the looks of skepticism out there. If I was a lean, strong, healthy person, I wouldn't need to lose weight, right? So let's go at it from the other direction. I weigh too much. I'm too fat. My clothes don't fit properly. I have a hard time climbing stairs. My knees are killing me, hauling all this weight around. How did I get so fat? I'm a mess. Who makes the food choices for you now? Who fills your basket at the market now? Who would you rather have filling your basket at the market? Probably the most powerful words you will ever say to yourself are any words that come after the words, I am. Any words that come after the words, I am. I sometimes hear folks talking about their upcoming trips north of the border. We've all been there, we've had these conversations, we've heard these monologues. It goes something like this. It's always stressful because I have to tell my daughter-in-law how better to take care of my son. My daughter doesn't cook. So not only do I have to travel there, I have to go to the supermarket, I have to buy the food, pay for it, bring it home, and cook it up. My sister always makes family gatherings unpleasant. You've heard this stuff, right? I'm not the only one who heard this stuff, okay? I don't even ask when they come back because I don't have to. Indeed, there was stressful disharmony at the son's house. Much grocery shopping and food preparation at the daughter's house, and at least one perfectly miserable family gathering. How could it be otherwise? But what if the traveler had a vision? And that vision might look something like this. I give my family members the dignity and respect to be as they are. From that perspective, I tell my son I love him. And I notice the good that is going on in his life, because actually, when you look for it, there will be some good going on in his life. I ask my daughter-in-law to talk about her own life and her own feelings and what matters to her. Because I really don't need to judge their choice to be together or how they are together when they are together. I don't need to judge that. It's not my job. I need only respect and love them both. And when I'm putting that respect and that love out into the space that we share, it tends to fill it up and change the dynamic. I need only respect and love them both if for no other reason than because I'm leaving in a few days and I'm coming back to this paradise that I chose for myself, despite the admonition of those north of the border that I was crazy to come and live in this dangerous and corrupt place. We've all been there too. So at the end of the day, we can't control other people's actions. It's our responsibility to control how we respond to them, because it is our response that directs the outcome of the encounter or the visit. The world is changed by your example, not by your opinion. It's changed by your example, not by your opinion. Looking at some of the broader concerns of a less personal nature, concerns that are nonetheless important to us. If you've seen the movie Food, Inc., you might be inclined never to eat in the United States again. Because what I got out of that documentary, it doesn't much matter whether you buy the burger at Burger King or McDonald's or Wendy's or wherever, or whether you buy it at the Safeway or Whole Foods, for crying out loud, and bring it home and cook it up. It's the same stuff, and it's not fit to eat. And while the big rally back in May of this year was billed as a march against Monsanto, the tone was very different from those protest marches of the 60s and 70s. This time the vision is clear. This time people are clear about what they want. They want to know what's in their food. They want choices about what they eat. And they have a clear vision of what their food and food sources are to look like. They want the Monsanto Act repealed because it destroys that vision. They want better health for themselves, for their family. Will they succeed? I certainly hope so. Let's look at some of the factors that affect the outcome of any protest, personal or global. And we've talked about both kinds here this morning. Biochemically, the brain doesn't know the difference between negative and positive thoughts. Either way, it will send biochemicals throughout the body. If you have positive thoughts, it will send one type of chemical and affect the body in one way. And if you have negative thoughts, it will send another type and affect the body in another way. Fearful thoughts block energy. They block the energy flow to the body and in and out of the body. And while negative thoughts can physically alter your body and cause harmful results, positive thoughts can have a powerful impact on improving your life. We're all, I think, familiar with the placebo effect. And what happens to people when they think they're getting a drug, the miracle drug, to cure whatever it is they have? And it does, even though it isn't the miracle drug they thought they were getting. Not only can thoughts improve your health, but by now you may be familiar with the law of attraction. And the law of attraction basically states you attract into your life what you're thinking about, what you're focusing on, and what you believe. And it's really more subtle than that, and it's more powerful than that. As you have thoughts, and as you develop beliefs, and they become strong and powerful beliefs, as we said in the beginning, these thoughts have energy, and energy vibrates. And whatever it is you are creating energetically for yourself, in your mind and in your life, is vibrating. What will come to you is whatever is vibrating at the same level. Okay? Like attracts like. So, some folks have a hard time with the idea of, if I just think positive thoughts, everything will change. You have to put a little more into it than that. Okay? You really want to take full responsibility for the energy that you bring into any space. Oprah had a sign in her office that said that. Be responsible for the energy you bring in here. It's really important because that's what shapes everything for you. My view is that parallel to or in conjunction with what has been dubbed the March Against Monsanto, the world, and we can speak now of the world because of the impact and the power of social media, we benefit from a collective vision of a healthy world population. And here I'm talking about much more than genetically modified foods or chemically adulterated foods. It would speak to healthy eating habits. Food, like water, is basic to the preservation of human life. So, what if our vision encompassed a prosperous world population? A world that works for everyone. And by this I speak of prosperity as more than money in the piggy bank and toys in the toy box. That's not what prosperity is about. Prosperity encompasses our relationships, our health, our inner gifts. It's experienced through gratitude for this abundant universe and the awareness of the power that infuses our very being. Prosperity is the state of mind that springs from awareness of all we have and of all we are. As I participate in the giving and receiving of every good thing, I open to a full and prosperous life. And as I focus on the good, it multiplies. Your vision is, of course, the vision that you choose to pursue. We've already talked about how that's your personal responsibility. As I'm fond of saying to folks, you are the Michelangelo of your own life. The David you are sculpted is you. Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is our right and not our light and not our darkness that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You're a child of the universe, and your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. Marianne Williamson wrote those words in A Return to Love 25, 30 years ago. And it's still often quoted today. It's an important reminder, particularly in a world where there's so much external negation of the personal individual power that we have and responsibility that we have. The point of this whole discussion this morning, and the message I invite you to consider, is this. You create your life by default or by design. You know, and you have seen firsthand, if you didn't already know, that you have the power to focus on an objective and create the reality you envision in that objective. So whether that objective is personal to you only or global that benefits the next 7 generations, is yours, and you have the power to do it. And when you put your time and your precious, precious life energy into a protest movement, I encourage you to do so with the greatest clarity of vision that you can muster. Margaret Mead said it very well, and it has proven over and over again to be correct in her view, which is this. Never doubt that a group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. I think I'm done. I think I'm not done.
Now I'm on. Just to say that Valerie is willing to entertain your questions for the next 10 minutes or so. If you have one, please raise your hand. Someone will bring you the microphone so we can all hear. Any questions for Valerie? Looks like we do.
I will entertain your questions. I may not answer them, but I'll certainly entertain them. I may even dance to them. Oh, here it comes. Before you speak, Alicia, remember I love your dog.
Yes, I know. He wants to come out and say hello. I'm glad you did it with just the finger. And while we did this too, I noticed that my second finger is longer than the one on the other hand. But I know I've done Alexander work with Malcolm, and if you do enough of it, you will be a little taller. Now, on something as large as your body, it's a little bit difficult to see the difference. But we started out with a little bitty project, one finger. And sometimes Save the World is a little bit big project. So sometimes we need to start out with clean up the dog poop on my street, something you can handle. Maybe you're not going to cure your cancer today, but you might work with curing the worry about your cancer.
Thank you, Alicia. And I want to talk about that, especially when you talk about cancer. It just brought something to mind. The exercise we did in the beginning, in lieu of meditation, is the qigong exercise. Comes from China, and in Chinese medicine, that same energy works. Some of you may have seen the time-lapse photography that works in eradicating cancer cells and tumors in patients in China. That's how tuned into energy that culture is and how they make it work for them. So that's a qigong exercise. Anybody else? Yes, Wendy, right here. I know all these people by name because I promised to buy them food after this is over.
I have a little story. My husband and I have a compost pile, and every now and then he puts it on our garden. And we put seeds in there from various who knows what, and suddenly something will start growing, and we're thinking, well, I wonder what it's going to be. Looks like it's going to be, I don't know. And it's squash quite often. And so the vine starts growing and spreading, and boy, I wonder what kind of squash it's going to be. We start getting a little squash, and the vine dies. So every time this happens, we go out there and say, well, I guess we're not going to find out what this is because it dies all the time when the vine gets big. So you think if we go out there every day and say, no, come on, vine, let's produce the squash here, a nice juicy squash, and think positive, maybe we'll get a product coming because we're positive.
Well, there are a couple of things you could do. You could say warm, sweet things to your squash. You could also ramp up the security in your community because Blackwater will come and get you for growing stuff that doesn't belong to Monsanto. Anybody else? Oh, wow. This is I don't feel like I'm going to get paid this morning because I didn't talk long enough.
I'm just interested if you have delved very much into quantum physics.
Peripherally, I know most of, to be perfectly honest with you, I look to Greg Braden to explain everything about quantum physics that I need to know because it's easier for me to get it that way.
I didn't catch that last time.
I look to Greg Braden to explain to me what I need to understand about quantum physics. I mean, I know that if I take a particle and I put half of it in Los Angeles and the other half in Boston, and I tickle the half in Boston, the one in Los Angeles will giggle. That's really all I don't know why that is. Okay. So to answer your question, not a lot. Have you?
I'm just getting to look into it a lot.
Now that the mic, we have another question here.
I'm sorry.
I was wondering what you thought. I was wondering what you thought about the energy seminar they've been advertising in the village. If you've seen it and what you thought about it.
The energy seminar or the corn?
It's supposed to be 4 days, December 6th through the 10th.
I haven't seen the advertisement. Is it energy like conserving electricity, or is it energy like personal physical energy? Well, that's exciting. When is it going to be? December?
6th through the 10th.
Oh, cool. Thank you. I'll watch for that. Anybody know more about that wants to talk about it? That can speak to it?
It's on Diane Pearl's.
Okay. Diane, she's saying it's on Diane Pearl's wall. So we'll have an opportunity to go look at that.
Wow. Oh, Jim.
Val?
Yes, I was going to say I didn't.
Okay, what have I done? Can you hear me? I was going to say I failed miserably if Rosemary doesn't speak.
How, for those of us who are positive, how do we accept and interact
with the number of people who do exist on negativity, of whom we know there are many, and of whom we are forced upon occasion to be in their presence. I have been called a Pollyanna when I have asked people to not speak about negative things when there's so much that's positive. But then I am perceived as a bad guy. And I don't like being perceived as a bad guy.
Well, I have a suggestion, Rosemary, that will help you out with that. And that is, be who you are. Show up as who you are, behave as who you are, and as you want the space to be. It's really okay if you sidestep telling people that they should speak differently, they should think differently, they should be different. It's okay not to do that. Because here again, we affect change by example, not by opinion. And as learned as you are, and as grand a wise elder as you are, and you know I respect you, it is still your opinion. And so I would just encourage you to be who you are. One of the things that's hard, people talk about positive and negative energy, I guess because we are accustomed to dealing with electricity, but the way energy in the world works is that it's light or it's heavy. My son and I have a way we speak of a couple of people we know, we say they have a lot of bass, okay? And so of course when someone is negative and that energy is very, very strong, of course you feel it. But your response to that really is even more important, that you be who you are and that you bring into the space what you have to bring into the space. Because really it only takes one of two people in any dynamic to behave differently and the whole dynamic shifts. So.
We have another question here.
Thank you, darling.
I loved every word of what you said, Val. It was
Thank
wonderful.
you. Thank you so much.
And I need to have reminders in my life. Is there any way I can get your text?
My text? Yes. You can send an email to me, Valerie, at wisdombridge, all one word, .org. O-R-G, okay? And I will send you the text. The text that I sent you will not have the stuff will have the stuff I X'd out and didn't say because I didn't think I'd have time. So I'll be glad to send it to you. Dr. B. Oh.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for the great lecture. I have an answer for that lady who asked about negative people. I think there's a saying in the U.S., and probably in other parts, when people are really, really negative, they say they feel full of poop. Well, that's true. And that is my business. When I went into colleagues, I told my friends and colleagues, why are you getting into the poop business? Well, because I want to turn negative people into positive people once the poop is out. So on February 2nd, I will give a lecture on that topic, the gut and brain connection.
Thank you, Dr. B.
I think that may be all our questions.
Super. Thank you all. Give yourselves a big hand.
Thank you. Thanks for your listening. October 13th, Art Thorkelson will talk about genetically modified organisms. That is, plants or animals that have undergone a process wherein scientists alter their genes with DNA from different species of living organisms, bacteria or viruses, to get desired traits such as resistance to disease or tolerance of pesticides. Arndt Thorkildsen has studied food production and farming practices in Norway, Portugal, the Philippines, in Korea, as well as the apple orchards and wheat farming in Washington State. He's been to seminars by Monsanto and Dow chemical companies and researched the studies on GMOs, pesticides, chemicals, and their use and effects on world food production. We won't want to miss that. So that concludes our morning. You can turn your cell phones back on and stack your chairs, please, and dispose of your coffee cups appropriately.